The sound of the doorbell broke my deep focus on the TV, and curiosity quickly took over. I got up from where I was sitting and walked over to the door. Looking through the peephole, I wondered how in the hell she had managed to find me. I considered just going back to the TV and ignoring the doorbell, but then figured if she had gone through the trouble to find me, she wasn't going to go away until she got whatever it was she came for. I hooked up the safety chain and then opened the door just enough so we could see each other. "What the hell do you want?" "To talk to you," she replied. "Didn't the way I left tell you that I had no interest in ever seeing you again, let alone talking to you?" "I have no idea why you left. I came home, and you were gone. No note telling me why, just all your things gone." "You can't be serious. How could you not know why?" "You're crazy. I know you heard me when I told you what would happen if you went through with what you were going to do." "May I come in?" I figured I'd best get it over with. I undid the chain, stepped aside, and she came in, sitting down on the couch. She asked me for a glass of water. As I went to get it, my mind went back to the night that started it all. I had just gotten home from work and found my wife, Ruby, all dressed up. I didn't know we had plans to go out. "We don't," she said. "I have a date tonight." "A date? With who?" "You don't know him." "Him? A man you work with?" "Yes, he recently started working here. Hardly anyone knows him. He requested me to accompany him to Mason's birthday celebration because he didn't want to attend alone." "He does know you're married, doesn't he?" "It doesn't matter. Nothing is going to happen between us. Besides, I don't want to go to Mason's party alone, and you won't go with me, so I told him I'd go with him." "You understand why I refused to go. I detest being around that woman with round heels. Additionally, I don't want you to interact with her in any way." "Get used to it, David. She's been my best friend since the first grade, and I won't turn my back on her just because you don't like her." "I don't like her because she's been divorced 4 times, each time because she got caught cheating on her husband. I don't like going to her parties because of all the drugs she has around. So you think that just because she cheated, I'm going to cheat too? Just because I'm around her? Now that you mention it, I think it's highly likely. You're dressed in an enticing little black dress, preparing for a date with another man. It's obvious you're dressed for him, and I can only think of one reason why you dressed provocatively for him." "That's a rotten thing to say to me." "No, it isn't. What did you wear to the last 2 parties at Mason's? I'll tell you in case you've forgotten. You wore slacks and a blouse to one, and jeans and a sweater to the other. There isn't any doubt in my mind as to why you're dressed like you are for this party. Mason has finally talked you into trying someone else. I know from snippets of conversation I've overheard that she's been after you to join in her screw parties for years. I guess she has finally gotten what she's been after." "You're wrong. It isn't like that." "Easy enough to prove me wrong. Don't go. Stay here with me." "I can't. Tom is counting on me, and he is more important to you than I am." All I could say was, "If you go, you are kissing your marriage goodbye." "Don't be ridiculous. This won't hurt us at all." "Don't wait up," she said as she headed for the door. "Goodbye, Ruby," I said as she walked out. I think she heard the finality in my voice. She hesitated for a second or two, but then she was gone. Did I overreact? I didn't think so. I was good friends with a lot of the guys in Mason's circle, and from them, I had learned all about what happened at Mason's parties. After the people who didn't care to participate had gone, the parties turned into screw parties. I learned that while Ruby didn't take part, she did stick around and watch. I also heard about Mason telling Ruby to forget about that fuddy-duddy she was married to and join in. "You know you want to," Mason had said, and Ruby would always respond that yes, she did want to, but wouldn't unless I joined in. My joining in was never going to happen. I had spent countless hours trying to talk Ruby into breaking away from Mason and to stop going to her parties, but I could never make it happen because of their BFF relationship. I spent a good part of the evening wondering what I should do. I was thinking about divorce, but I really didn't know if Ruby would cheat on me. Could I live with her giving me the "to hell with you, David, I'm going" attitude? I had 7 years of what I thought were great years with her. The only downside was her constant time with Mason, whom I just couldn't stand. She was trash as far as I was concerned, and Ruby knew it. One might ask why, if I knew so much about what went on at Mason's, I didn't just confront Ruby. The answer was simple, at least to me. I had to know if Ruby would cheat on me. If she had the mind to cheat and I confronted her about Mason's parties and her stated desire to join in, would she just pull back from Mason's parties and do it somewhere else at a different time and place? I might never know if she did it at some other time and place, but if she did do it at Mason's, there were people I knew who would tell me. I still hadn't made up my mind on what I was going to do. When I went to bed, the ringing of the bedside phone woke me up. As I sat up, I saw the time on the alarm clock and wondered who would be calling me at 1 a.m. Hello? Hello, idiot. Did I wake you up? What do you want, Mason? Just calling to let you know your wife has finally found herself a real man. What the hell are you talking about? Just what I said. Ruby has found herself a real man, a man who can give her what she really needs. Here, just listen. Reluctantly, I listened as the sounds of intimacy filled the airwaves. Then I heard, "Oh God, yes. Take me, please, please, hard." The voice was unmistakably my wife's. I hung up the phone. 30 seconds later, it rang again. I knew who it would be, so I picked up the handset and dropped it on the floor. One of the good things about living in an apartment is that you don't accumulate a lot of stuff because you have no place to put it. I had everything I wanted packed and out in the truck in just over an hour. By 3 a.m., I was in a motel and at the bank when the doors opened at 9. I cleaned out all the accounts, then drove over to my job. I told Jake I was quitting without notice and why. He said he understood, cut me my final check, helped me load my tools, told me I could use him as a reference, and wished me well. My phone had been ringing since 7 a.m., and all the calls were from Ruby. I finally turned it off and made a mental note to get a new number. Then I changed my mind. I didn't know if Ruby could get the new number from her cell phone provider or not, so I decided to toss the phone in the trash and buy a track phone at Walmart. I didn't need to do anything with credit cards since Ruby and I didn't have any joint cards. She had 2 in her name, and I had 3 in mine. By 10 a.m., I was on the road to a destination I hadn't yet decided on. All I knew was that it had to be miles and miles away from Ruby. I finally ended up in Castle Rock, Colorado. I found a job in my field and settled in to start my new life. If there was going to be a divorce, Ruby would have to go for it. If she went for it, she would know where I was after a year. She could use abandonment as a reason. The only drawback to that was that I would never know, but then it really didn't matter because I had no plans on ever getting married again. The next 2 years went by, and life was good. I dated some and had a friend with benefits. And now this. I know you heard me when I told you what would happen if you went on that date, I said. You ignored me, left on that date, and I did what I said I was going to do. How did you find me? I asked. A very expensive private detective. Why did you bother? You're my husband, the whole whither thou goest thing and all that stuff, she said. How did you come up with the money to pay for a very expensive private detective on a secretary's wages? I asked. I sold the house. What house? The one I was awarded in the suit. I started to ask, what suit? What house? But caught myself. It didn't matter. Well, you wasted your money and the time it took to get here, because we are done. You did exactly what I knew you would when you walked out on me to go to that party, and don't bother wasting your time trying to tell me nothing happened. Your witch of a best friend called me at 1 o'clock in the morning and held the phone so I could listen to what was going on. Your "oh God, yes, take me, please, please, hard," came through loud and clear and said it all. She sighed. She was successful. Maybe I should have pursued retribution with more vigor. I guess I need to tell you what happened, since you weren't there to see or hear it. I didn't go to that party to get screwed. That was the farthest thing from my mind. Maybe I overdressed for the party, but Mason asked me to. For some reason she didn't like Robert, or so she said, but she couldn't tell him not to come because it was an open invitation to everyone at the office. She asked me to dress revealing and make him think he was going to get lucky. I like dressing up, so I did. Robert took one look at me and thought he was going to hit the jackpot that night. He stuck to me like glue, almost like he was afraid someone else might get me if he wasn't near. It was a fun party, and even though Robert hovered nearby, I guess the other guys thought I looked hot that night. I danced with several of them. Just as the party was breaking up, I started feeling dizzy and lightheaded. Mason told me she thought I'd had too much to drink and had me lie down in one of her spare bedrooms. I don't know how or when it started, but I slowly became aware that I was being made love to. At first I thought I was home in bed with you, until I heard someone say, "Hurry it up, will you? I'm next." I looked around and saw Mason, along with Robert and Ben Grady. I saw several other men standing around without clothes, one of them apparently the guy who was supposed to be next. You know me, David. You know how I get when we make love. I lose control. I become a mere vessel of pleasure. I don't know how many did me before I passed out. I woke up the next morning next to Bob Flanagan. He was leaning on an elbow, looking at me. I saw the look on his face and asked, Just never thought you would cheat on David. Glad that you did, though. Hope to see more of you. I promptly slapped him across the cheek, got dressed, and headed to the hospital. I told them that I thought I had been given a date-rape drug. They did the testing and found traces of rohypnol and ecstasy in my blood, and then they called the cops. While waiting for the police, I tried calling you, but got no answer. I found out why I couldn't reach you when I got home and found you gone. When the police talked to me, I told them what I knew and what little I remembered. The first one they talked to was Flanagan, and he told them he had no idea I was drugged. He thought nothing of taking me because that's what always happened at Mason's parties, and I knew it, having stood around and watched. He said he figured I had finally decided to give it a try. He gave them the names of all the men he knew who had been with me that night. The police thought Robert had to be part of what happened to me, and when they leaned on him, he rolled over and told them it was all Mason's doing. She just knew I really wanted to join in, so she decided to give me a push. She figured that once the drug wore off, I'd still be into it, love it, and want to do it again. She was right about that. I did love it. But where she messed up was that she didn't pay attention to the fact that I told her, over and over again, that I wouldn't join in without you. You had to be on board with it, or I wouldn't do it. Once I was done with the hospital and the police, a policeman drove me home. That's when I found out why I never got an answer when I tried calling you. I broke down and cried for 2 days. Then I got an attorney and sued everyone who had been at that party and who had been involved. Most of the suits were thrown out because they all said the same thing Flanagan had said. But the suits against Mason and Robert were valid because the two of them had conspired against me. I won my suits, but Mason had nothing but her house. I was asked if I would settle for it. She still owed $30,000 on it, but with what I got from Robert, I was able to pay it off, and then I sold it. Once I had the money from the sale of the house, I hired the private detective, and here I am. You wasted your money on the PI and the time it took to get here. For what? To get us back together? I love you and belong with you, but you would have been smarter to spend that money on an attorney to get a divorce. You could have used abandonment as grounds. I don't want a divorce, David. What you want or don't want doesn't matter to me anymore, Ellis. You didn't do it willingly. You were drugged. But you did willingly walk out that door, even though I told you that if you walked out, you were kissing your marriage goodbye. You ignored what I said and walked out that door. The way I left should have told you that you were wasting your time and money coming here. I have to be here if I'm going to put us back together. You aren't paying any more attention to what I'm saying now than you did on the evening you walked out on me. Pay attention, Ruby. I don't want you. You can't put us back together because I do asterisk, not asterisk. Emphasis on asterisk, do not asterisk. Want to get back together with a woman who could do what you did. Damn it, David. Can't you understand that I did not do it of my free will? I was drugged, Ruby exclaimed, her frustration rising. No, Ruby. You're the one not understanding things. It isn't what happened at Mason's, though I did expect something like that to happen, and I warned you it was likely. It's what you did before you walked out the door to go to Mason's. It was the total disrespect you showed me before leaving for your date. Don't be ridiculous, David. This won't hurt us at all, she had said as she walked out that door, dressed for another man. That moment had killed any chance of us being together. Now please leave. I need to get ready for dinner, I said, turning away. I'm hungry. I'll eat with you, and we can talk. I'm going to convince you that you're wrong when you say we can't put things back together, she said stubbornly. Her words hadn't even faded before the front door opened, and an extremely good-looking blonde walked in, calling out, I'm home, B. What's for dinner? Then she saw Ruby and asked, Who is this? This is Ruby. You've heard me speak of her a time or two, I replied. Ruby stood frozen as Beverly walked over, bent down, and gave her a hug. Thank you for sending David to me. Then she turned to me and asked, What's for dinner? I thought we'd go out. I made reservations at Angelo's, I said. I'll go change, Beverly said. Nice meeting you, Ruby. Maybe we can get together sometime and compare notes, she added before heading to the bedroom. You need to be leaving now, Ruby. I have to change for dinner, I said firmly. Does she know you're still married? Ruby asked, a tear rolling down her cheek. She does, I said. Then you need to let her know I'm going to fight for you, David, Ruby said, her voice breaking. Get real, Ruby. For you to fight for me, you'd need to spend time with me, and that's just not going to happen. Get a divorce, find another man, and when you do, don't pull the crap on him that you pulled on me. Tears slid down her cheeks as she whispered, Damn it, David, why can't you understand? I did not cheat on you. I was drugged. So what? You had to be there to be drugged, and that's the point. I told you not to go. I told you when you opened that door that if you left, you were kissing your marriage goodbye. You ignored me. You left. Marriage over. Simple as that. Now please leave. I have a dinner date to get ready for. I'm not going to divorce you, David, and you need to let your girlfriend know that she's never going to be able to marry you, Ruby said, her voice trembling. She can't marry me, I replied. She's already married and in the same boat I'm in. Her husband won't give her a divorce, and she won't waste the money trying to get one. I'll go, but I'm not going far. I can't get you back long distance, so I'm moving here. I'm going to get you back, Ruby insisted. No, you aren't, Ellis. I've already said this several times, and you need to get it through your head that I mean it. I do asterisk not asterisk want you. Now go. She was crying, but she left. Bev came into the room, looking radiant. Why aren't you ready? Did you decide not to go? No, it just took longer to get rid of her than I thought, I replied. Is she gone for good? Bev asked. She should be. I let her know in no uncertain terms that I wanted nothing to do with her. That's good, Bev said with a smile, because I do not intend to let you get away from me. I smiled back and said, give me 10 minutes, and I'll be ready to go. What's your opinion about that? Thanks for joining us in our stories, where revenge is served hot.